You're watching Mugen TV RPG Haven. Experience a fantasy like no other.
Hey guys, it's MugenLord here, and today I want to talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade, which is the definitive edition that's coming to the PS5, and also the DLC, which includes episode Yuffie, which I'm really looking forward to. But before we dive into the video, just want to let you guys know, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so, and if you're using the Odyssey platform, don't forget to hit the follow button if you enjoyed this channel's content. Now let us dive right into it. So why do I want to talk about this definitive edition and the Yuffie DLC for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade? Well, there's a lot of controversy surrounding it. Now, if you followed my last video, then you'll know that I didn't want to talk much about it just yet because I wanted to actually hear from Square Enix themselves or Sony themselves about this situation, whether or not that the Yuffie DLC is going to be exclusively for the PlayStation 5, because the way it was worded, and even some game outlets was also confused about the whole situation as well. And Square Enix themselves on the website had clarified, yes, is in fact a PS5 exclusive. And this has a lot of gamers upset. A lot of fans of Final Fantasy VII and also Final Fantasy VII Remake are extremely upset, especially for the PS4 owners who don't have a PS5. And yes, this is very controversial, and I really think, in my opinion, that this is truly a scummy move on Square Enix's part. And the thing is, before I even get deep into this, I just want to just share with you guys my relationship with Square Enix as a company. And I must say, when it comes to Square Enix as of now, I really have like a love type of hate relationship with this company, and it's my favorite company too. And it really bothers me because sometimes Square Enix makes some of the most or some of the great games that I really love about this company when it comes to their JRPGs, and then other times they make these stupid decisions that really pisses me off. It's similar to what Nintendo does at times, where Nintendo, you know, they release all these great games, but then you turn around, you look at how they have their crappy online service and some of their decisions when it comes to fan games and everything like that, how they can just somewhat or just be downright brutal at times. So you have that, you get conflicted, and that's what Square Enix has been doing over the past couple of years when it comes to their game titles and their business practices and everything. And like I said, like, my passion for Square Enix, especially back when they were Squaresoft during the SNES era, I grew up on games like Chrono Trigger, Secret of Mana, Final Fantasy VI, Mario RPG. Once I jumped into the PS1 era, Final Fantasy VII, Tobal #1, Guys, Saga Frontier, Brave Fencer Musashi. So many titles that I just cherished and loved so much from, especially the Star Ocean franchise. And now we fast forward and we move on to other titles such as Kingdom Hearts, The Bouncer. And once they became together as it merged with Enix, some of the greater titles from both of their companies, and just brought them into one house. And it was just a RPG fans just dream come true, you know. But now we look forward now and we look at what Square Enix has become. They become more of a corporation than passionate game designers, you know. Especially we live in the age of microtransactions, you know, remakes, you know, HD remasters, and Square Enix is notorious for constantly keep re-releasing the same games over and over again. You know, they know what the fans like, they know what the fans want, and at times it seems like you're not really getting a bang for your buck. Just recently, if you guys don't know, Square Enix had just also announced that the Kingdom Hearts franchise is now coming to the PC, which is a good thing, because now PC fans can now, if they have never played Kingdom Hearts, can finally play Kingdom Hearts. And another thing too, when it comes to the PC community, they're amazing when it comes to mods. So I'm definitely looking forward to see what mods that they come up with themselves. And then right after that, they pretty much said that the Kingdom Hearts PC version is only going to be exclusive to the Epic Game Store. Now, there's a lot of controversy surrounding that, because a lot of people hate, you know, downloading different clients in order to gain access to a lot of these different titles. And then on top of that, they're not only just reselling older Kingdom Hearts franchises, they also sell them at a premium price, which is downright ridiculous. And when you have, you know, these games already on a collection on consoles, which is much cheaper, how can you justify that? It makes no sense. So now it brings me all to this point right now, the Yuffie DLC being exclusive to the PS5. Now there's a lot of people who's upset about it, including myself. And here's the thing, I have a PS5. If you guys are new to my channel, you can go check out my channel where I talk about my impressions of the PS5. You know, in a lot of my live streams, you can see my PS5 in the background, and you can see me holding the controller and everything. So I have a PS5. So the thing is, be able to have my hands on this once it's released in June. But the fact is that there's a lot of gamers out there who won't be able to have the opportunity or the luxury to be able to have their chance to be able to play the Yuffie DLC, for the simple fact is we live in this so-called right now, this pandemic, so it pretty much affect a lot of supplies when it comes to having these consoles available. So there's massive shortages going on, and then on top of that, these scalpers are constantly just grabbing up and just scooping up these PS5s and then sell them at ridiculous prices where a lot of people can't really afford it. So to turn around and make this DLC just exclusive to the PS5, I just think is downright just abysmal. You just don't understand how I feel about that right now, because there's a portion of the community that would not be able to play this, for the simple fact is that, one, they can't get their hands on the PS5. Two, maybe they can't afford the PS5 right now because we in this pandemic right now, you know. And then three, when it comes to next gen, not everyone makes that crossover just yet. And I just think that it's just silly, for the fact is that when you have Final Fantasy VII Remake, which the user base has been waiting for this game, and then finally showed Square Enix that, hey, we're fans of this game, we are a fan of your company, and they bought part 1 of the remake on the PS4. It's part 1 of the remake on PS4, and then what you do is they're going to sit there and add DLC, which is still part of Final Fantasy Remake Part 1, and then lock it behind a $500 to $600 paywall, and won't be able to get their hands on it at all. Especially, like I said before, if you can't afford it and you can't find the PS5 at this moment. And that's really scummy. Now the thing is, what really sucks about it, you see my live reaction, how me, my father, and both my brothers, Keo Lancer and Dick Strikes, were so excited and so hyped for this because we couldn't wait to get our hands on the game. Now the thing is, I'm able to get the game, and they won't be able to, because they're looking for it. They still scrounging around looking for a PS5. They just tried to get a PS5 just recently and sold out on the internet instantly. Was able to get it in the cart and then just sold out. They wasn't able to pretty much check it out, you know. So both my brothers and my father won't be able to get it, which means I won't be able to share that experience with them. I won't be able to talk about the Yuffie DLC with them at all, which really sucks. Which means I'll be in my room, be able to play it, and they won't be able to come to my room at times I'll be able to play it because they don't want to be spoiled. And that really sucks. That really sucks down to the T. Now, the thing that really grinds my gears about this too as well is the fact is that you have some fanboys, some Square Enix and Sony fanboys who are defending this, who are downright defending this, saying that people should be able, they have to move on to next generation because the PS4 is holding them back when it comes to the technology and everything like that. And what bothers me even more is that you have some people who have a PS5 and it's telling other people who don't have one that it's easy to get a PS5, or if you can't afford it, then you shouldn't be gaming, and all this type of other bullcrap. And it really bothers me. And I was arguing with a PS5 user who even made a statement like this on Twitter about this, and I was like, dude, just because you got a PS5 and I luckily got a PS5 doesn't mean that everybody's able to easily get a PS5. How can you say that to these players? It just doesn't make any sense. And then what disgusts me about Square Enix is the simple fact is they turn around and say that the reason why that the Yuffie DLC is exclusive to the PlayStation 5 is because it's only optimized for the PS5. which is a crock of bullcrap. It's definitely a crock of bullcrap, because you're telling me that from what that statement clearly states right there is that they chose to optimize it only for the PS5. And what's the excuse? It doesn't make any sense, because another YouTube user that I was debating with at the Dashing David's YouTube channel, where he covers Final Fantasy news, you could need to go check out his channel as well. This person literally said that, this move had to be made, because if they would have just not do this, then people would have been complaining about why the textures on the doors or the textures are not being upgraded. So this was an important move to make. And I was saying that makes no sense at all. Like, this person literally tried to make it like that the textures, complaining about the textures would have been the big issues for them. If you look at why people are upset and complaining that they can't get their hands on the DLC, obviously that the textures is not even a big factor in any of this. They can care less about this. They want to be able to play the game. They can care less about that. And the fact is that this person tried to make that an issue. Like, how would a bad textures on the door or a bad JPEG of the upper plate affect the performance of the cells of the game? That makes no sense. That literally makes no sense at all. How can you sit there and defend that, making an excuse for that? And the reason why I'm not letting Square Enix off the hook on this is because, for the simple fact is, how in the world Miles Morales is not only on the PS5 and optimized for the PS5, it's also be played on the PS4 for the PS4 users. Now let me get this straight. How can Insomniac Games, now Insomniac is another high profile company that makes some of the greatest titles, Western game titles on the PlayStation platform. They make some of the greatest games. They are a high profile AAA publishers that make some of the greatest games for Sony. How is it that they're able to take Miles Morales and not only optimize it for the PS5, but also allow PS4 players to be able to enjoy the experience as well? Because think about it for a minute. Square Enix stated that Integrate, the name Integrate, because Square Enix love to have meanings behind their names for their titles. Integrate means in the middle. It means in between. So Integrate is a bridge between Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 1 and soon to be released Final Fantasy VII Part 2 in the near future. So this right here is a bridge, it's a connection, it's in between. It's to get people prepared to move on to the next generation console. And what shows that is the new visual effects, 60 frames per second, etc. But hear me out with this. Miles Morales is also a bridge between the PS4 Spider-Man and, of course, the soon PS5 sequel to the Spider-Man PS4 game. And yet, PS4 users be able to play it. Because think about it for a second. Final Fantasy VII Remake has a huge player base and huge install base on the PS4, right? Everybody bought it for the PS4. Everybody was anticipating this. And then you take the same assets from the PS4, you upgrade them to take advantage of the PS5 technology. And then you take story elements that adds to the story elements to Part 1 of Final Fantasy VII Remake and lock it behind the PS5. So not only that you slash your user base tremendously, because not everybody owns a PS5, but you also put it behind a paywall. Square Enix had to know that they would be taking a hit for this. So the only explanation that's behind all this is that Sony had to thrown some money at them. Because what do they have to gain by locking the Yuffie DLC to only make it exclusive for the PS5, which the Yuffie DLC in this upgraded version still utilizes the assets from the PS4 version. Still utilizes it. It's still the same game. Just added, they just upped it using the PS5 technology. Similar to what Insomniac Games did with Miles Morales. There's no excuse for this. You cannot defend this. Because if you can take Spider-Man, Miles Morales, to remind you, it's an open world game. Final Fantasy VII Remake is not an open world game. So you cannot tell me that for some reason that there's somehow magically more technical work that's being done behind the scenes with Final Fantasy VII Remake compared to Spider-Man for the PS4. You cannot tell me that. You cannot tell me that. Spider-Man, you know how much work is done to create an open world game? And Final Fantasy VII Remake is not an open world game. And here is though, they was able to take Miles Morales and they was able to use the optimization of the PS5 and yet still make it available for PS4 users. But Square Enix couldn't. So they said they had to optimize it and only take advantage of the PS5 technology. That PS5 technology and the Yuffie DLC better have some of the most like outstanding, groundbreaking, ground shattering type of visual effects that I've never seen before to justify exclusivity thing that they have going on for the PS5, because they really have no benefits in doing this and cutting their user base like this. There's no benefit in it unless Sony, like I said before, is paying them to do this. And I mean giving them a crap ton of money to do this, to make up for that, to make up for the cost. Because there's no way around this. That does not make any sense, because Sony has more to gain from this exclusive deal, because they want to be able to have as many PS5 consoles everyone's home. So Sony has more of an incentive to want this to happen than Square Enix, when Square Enix is pretty much abandoning the PS4 user base. The game started out on the PS4. People love the game and want to continue to invest in its story, and then now they can't get a piece of that add-on because it's behind the next generation consoles. Like I said, I have no arguments and nothing against Final Fantasy Part 2 being a PS5 exclusive, because it makes sense. You know, we moving on to that, we on the next generation consoles, so it makes sense that the next part should take full advantage, especially if they're talking about going into part 2, which we're speculating that this may be more open. We need to know if they're going to use a world map, or are they going open world with it? How are they going to be able to take advantage of that if they're being limited by the PS4? So that makes sense that the next one be on the PS5. So we can expect Final Fantasy Part 2 to pretty much be released around 2023 or 2024, but more likely I believe 2023. So I can see that being more of a possibility, and by that time people have well transitioned into the PS5, because just like Phil Spencer said with Microsoft, most gamers statistically don't fully transition over to the next gen until the second year of the next generation console's lifespan. So that makes sense. So by 2023, everyone should be almost making that complete transition over to the next generation consoles, you know? So I definitely don't want to hear this excuse, and it's just downright disgusting that you have some of these fanboys out here literally defending this practice from Square Enix. You know, they already made a dumpster fire with the Avengers game, which I already said it sucked. So if you want to check that video out, you can go check that out. So like I said, Square Enix can turn around and make some of the greatest games that all fans know and love, and then turn around and just make stupid business decisions that can piss people off. And then on top of that, they're also releasing Ever Crisis, excuse me, and also First Soldier, which is a battle royale. So they're not only that, they're milking the entire original compilation of Final Fantasy VII. So not only that we have to deal with this whole DLC with Yuffie that's being locked away behind the PS5, now they're milking with the mobile games. And then I'm guarantee you that eventually these mobile games are somehow going to come over to the PC and maybe the Nintendo Switch and consoles, especially after the Ever Crisis episodes are official and complete, 100% complete. You can expect Square Enix to re-release those on a cartridge or on Steam or on disc, you know, or digital download. That is ridiculous. And then some people try to justify it by saying that Square Enix is also making Final Fantasy VII Remake free for the PSN Gold users. Like, that makes no sense, because in a way it's not really free. I don't understand why people keep saying why they use the term free. Free is just to make, it's a psychological thing to make it like you getting a bargain or you getting a bang for your buck or whatever. Because technically it's not free. It's because you have to pay a premium subscription in order to gain access to certain games that Sony has a contract with third-party developers in order to have games on this service. So if you was to quit or to stop paying that premium, then you no longer have access to these games, especially Final Fantasy VII Remake. So no, it's not free. You're paying for it in some shape or form. It's just now that Final Fantasy VII Remake is part of this premium service. The moment you cut away and stop paying that premium, you don't have access to it. So no, it's not free. It's not free at all. So people, get that out of your head. It's not free. You're paying for it. You're paying for it. And of course, Sony have to cut them some money in order for this transaction to even happen anyway. So no, it don't justify this. Like, you cannot justify this at all. And I believe what we need to start doing is, especially the PS4 users, you really need to speak up about this. You really do. And I'm speaking up about it myself, because this is wrong. This is downright scummy, and this shouldn't even be a thing. To me, Square Enix, you couldn't have been. You guys couldn't have sat down and said, you know what? Let's just cut the player base down. Cut away from our huge player base on the PS4, and just put this part 1, which was a PS4 game, and make this portion of this add-on a PS5 exclusive. No, you cannot tell me that. You cannot tell me. Sony had to grease you guys some money in order to make this possible. Because I just can't see you guys making this decision just like that without even thinking about the repercussions behind this, unless they gave you guys a crap ton of money. But that's pretty much it. I know this is a long rant. I know like you can hear it in my voice that I'm really upset about this. It's because now I really can't talk about this with my brothers or my dad, because they don't have a PS5 just yet, because they can't find one. They can't get their hands on one. And every time they try to, they closely having their hands on it, it's just snatched from underneath them because of these scalpers, and because the servers are crashing online and everything like that. So it really sucks. Definitely, I want to hear your thoughts. For those who have a PS5, what do you think about this decision that Square Enix have made, as far as making the Yuffie episode exclusive to the PS5? What do you think about that? Do you think it's not really a big deal? Do you just think that this was the right move for them to make? And for those of you who have played Final Fantasy VII Remake and only owns a PS4, what do you think about this? Do you think you're okay with this, or are you like passionately upset about it like I am, even though I have a PS5? I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below, because I think this is a topic that definitely needs to be discussed, and this is an issue that definitely needs to be addressed. Because if no one says anything or do anything about it, these companies will continue to do this. They will continue to charge you more but give you less, and hide simple things behind a massive, huge paywall. So this has to be addressed. This has to be stopped. So make sure you hit that subscribe button to stay up to date for more Final Fantasy VII Remake news. And also, don't forget to hit the bell to be notified if you're on YouTube. And if you're from the Odyssey platform, make sure you hit that follow button as well. This is MugenLord signing off. See you Game Fiends later. Peace out.